Oh no.
Everyone here avails themselves very well. All right, and we are live.
See, when you say it that soft, I almost don't even hear it. That's how I missed it last week.
You were probably playing a game and not paying attention. Kamizite, how's it going?
Ah, there's a commie in chat.
Yes.
Playing a game and not paying attention.
Live from the Splice stream. It's Wednesday night.
Yeah. If everyone could say like a sentence or two, and let's just make sure we're all balanced well. Kamizite is going to be our literal sounding board.
Check 1, 2. Sega.
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 EA Sports. It's in the game.
Yay. Chat.
Fortunately,
Lizzie.
I don't think I can make the Capcom sound.
Sorry, that shiny Roselia I caught is a bounty in one of my discords, so I'm trying to get that uploaded.
How does that work?
We give points for people getting shiny Pokemon. Right now it's apparently Rose Day, so we're doing Rose Pokemon bounties. So you go in a game, you catch the Pokemon, you post pictures proving you caught it, and you get points.
And do these points matter, or are they made up?
They totally don't matter.
Dang
But
it.
We're looking into making them matter in the future.
Ooh. Now we're talking my language.
Whose Clefairy is it anyway? Whose Mr. Mime is it anyway?
Who's
Dang it, you beat me
Linoon?
to it. I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, come on, what is it? What is it? Although, whose mime is it anyway by itself would be a funny show.
Would it though?
The right mime, yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's
it would look this
Galarian,
bad.
maybe.
I mean, that's essentially. the
Oh,
kind
Kamizite
of,
can't hear me. See, that's important.
That is important. Kami can't hear
Wait,
Splice.
why can't he hear me? By all accounts, it's saying he should be able to hear me,
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
but he can't. So clearly something is wrong.
That sentence just sounds so wrong when said in a normal voice. Bill. Baggins.
What did I say?
Oh, you got me.
Oh,
Wow,
you don't
okay,
have to
doesn't-
impersonate him and everything.
I know, it just doesn't sound right.
I thought he attempted one.
I mean, I did like a mild one, but I wasn't like leaning
Can
into
you-
it by any means.
Can you hear me, Kamizite? Gosh, Kamizite, for sound stuff, you're not allowed to do bits, and you know this. You were forbidden.
He was forbidden.
No.
You basically gave him permission by doing that.
No. He knows the rules.
I don't. What are the rules?
Kamizite has a running bit, and I don't understand where it came from, where he claims I can't read words when they're put in between parentheses. He says I have parentheses blindness.
I think that's called parenthesitis.
Like, it's an interesting idea.
I've certainly encountered people that could use that condition.
You just want to be able to comment out comments in real life. That said, that would be an interesting superpower.
Being able to put people in parentheses.
No, being able to make comments only certain people can hear.
Like an aside.
Yeah.
The
Something.
superhero's name is the parenthetical.
I still remember there was one time where someone was relying on me to be the one to make sure someone said something correctly because I was the only one who spoke Spanish, and everyone else was like, "Oh, it must have been fine," and I was the one who was like, you don't read the part in parentheses."
I got it. Splice. He's a sidekick to the question. He's the soliloquy. He's the soliloquy.
I like it. I like it. Petrivka, how's it going?
Want to get off Mr. Bones' wild ride.
You're not supposed to notice that yet.
I suspect that Trivka is going to be the only one who's actually going to talk about a full simulator in this conversation.
That's why we can't do this episode without him.
What is a full simulator?
Like literally having to gauge every single control in an aircraft.
So a flight simulator.
Well, the other simulators are, I mean, yes, they are simulators, but for me, a true simulator has always been the flight simulator.
You can't just make up a genre and expect all of us to abide by it.
They did make up the genre.
I mean, he clearly can. He just did it.
You're calling it a full simulator, and it's just like, I mean, sure.
I don't think any of us have played Euro Truck Simulator or Train Simulator.
Hey, Petrivka, can you give us a full sentence about your lunch today?
I'm trying to remember what it was, but I think it was soup.
What type of soup?
Toscana soup.
Ooh, fancy.
Ropa Toscana is good.
How's he
It
now,
is
Kamisite?
Was it the actual Italian version or the Americanized version that is based on the what's it called, Olive Garden soup? The version that they brought over.
It was done by the company Cafe, so I don't really know the difference.
What was it like? What was in it?
They had potatoes and sausage.
Was it like red or white or?
It was whitish. It
Okay,
was kind of yellow.
I think that's the American version, and it's delicious. So I have no
it was
complaints.
good. So
Yeah, no, like that's not a criticism at all. But apparently they are slightly different. So
do they make one like with a tomato-based sauce instead?
I'm not sure. Let me look it up again because I just remember looking
A
at it once
ragu?
and being like, oh, there's a Zuppa Toscana.
So we're talking soup simulator here, folks.
We are. I'm just
not
getting the
against
announcements out.
Oh, Overcooked? I love Overcooked.
Oh
Were there-
man,
were there beans in
always it's a distributed denial of service is the biggest problem in that game.
Were there
All right.
beans in it?
Well, I am now ready.
No beans.
I
No
have
beans.
gotten everything out. I'm going to try something a little different for the start today. We'll see how it goes. You guys ready?
Sure.
reticulating splines.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Reticulating splice.
Reticulating splice.
No reticulating the splice. All right, here we go. Imagine, if you will, you're going to a park and they have all these nice little roller coasters on it, and you decide to get on one. And you're happy because this one doesn't look like a death trap like a lot of the others. And you're getting, you know, everyone else is dying around you. But then you get on a ride that magically will not stop. And it goes on for upwards of 3 years. And you realize you can't stop. And because you're on this magical cart, you don't need to eat. And you're just stuck on the slowest, most boring ride ever for 3 years. And you want to get off Mr. Bones' wild ride. Does anyone here played Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 or 2 and made horrible things that just did terrible things to their patrons?
I gave them a magical time and they know it.
Did
My
no one
brothers-
else?
My brother's
I just
played.
drowned no vandalizers is what I did. I was nice otherwise.
Does anyone here not know what Mr. Bones Wild Ride is?
I don't really know that one.
I think I've heard the phrase before, but I didn't know it was Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yes, it's so basically someone, if you can see what's on the screen right now, they put the roller coaster at the slowest pace. They've used copious turnabouts to just make it so it goes back and forth. And the problem is that by doing so, in-game time, they get stuck on the ride for, I think it's 3 years. And there's no hunger mechanics in the game, so they're just stuck on this ride for 3 years. And if you're looking at your reviews, there's just all these people on the ride just saying, I want to get off Mr. Bones Wild Ride over and over again. It's like it's a horrible fate worse than death.
I had a friend, something similar happened to him, but it was on It's a Small World.
Okay, so I guess...
Could definitely see that happening. Oh my
The
gosh.
ride broke down and he was stuck on it for like 3 hours.
Ugh.
And they cut off the music.
Okay, so it's not 3 years real world time, but 3 years in-game time.
Yeah.
Time, sure. Which is
And yet
which
there's
is
still
long. I mean, that's
time for it. What's with that?
that's probably like a good half hour or so.
So I think it depends upon what you put in the time frame. The video people are watching now is 17 minutes long.
Oh, jeez. I will admit, most of the YouTube videos I've seen talking about Roller Coaster Tycoon, it's usually, a steep jump that leads into like a pit of flame or water or something.
My favorite thing about Mr. Bones Wild Ride is the way that it's created. Is it basically will dump them out right back into the line for Mr. Bones Wild Ride, and so they get stuck on it.
Oh, that's
I love
awful.
how they have all the entertainers there, like desperately trying to keep up everyone's morale.
Yeah. It's just this insane thing. But Roller Coaster Tycoon is interesting. I've heard people say that it is possibly the best programmed game in the history of gaming. It's actually written in assembly.
Chris Sawyer is a madman. Yes.
So that can run on any computer, any device, any operating system, compatible with them all.
As far as I know, I think he just hung it up after Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. Just wrote out on his.
I mean,
royalties.
when you've already coded the best game possible, what could you do?
I mean, Roller Coaster Tycoon is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but it's the predecessor that was really one of the first sim games that really grabbed me. It was called Transport Tycoon.
Transport Tycoon I have played.
Yeah, that was Chris Sawyer. Also done in assembly, also published by Microprose.
Ooh.
And that game, like, I think I sunk probably real time, like at least 3 or 4 months.
That's a lot of time.
It really connected all the pathways in my brain. So there was an original release, then they made a deluxe edition that added biomes and different more varieties of vehicles and whatnot. I mean, it was basically a Transport Tycoon game was basically you have industries and towns, and you just link up via multiple modes of transport resources to where they need to go, like coal to a power plant or iron to a steel mill or passengers to another town, that kind of thing. A real basic concept, but man, once you get into it, like you want to hook up all the things.
Yeah, because it would go in strings. Like you'd get iron to the steel mill, and the steel mill would discharge steel, so you get steel to the manufacturing plant, factory, and the factory would drop out goods that you would then have to ship to the city so that you could sell them.
And then the city would grow.
And you could also do transportation for yeah.
And the other thing I was really neat about it is they actually had coded AI competition, which Roller Coaster Tycoon didn't have. So you were actually competing for. Sometimes they would release subsidies. So like
if there was competition in Roller Coaster Tycoon, people would have to stop making their death traps.
People would actually have to sit and do the scenarios, which is actually a majority of the game is trying to achieve a scenario. But a lot of people just went sandbox and did the death trap.
I've noticed that happens in a lot of sim games.
My favorite part of watching people play Roller Coaster Tycoon is when they set up their roller coaster without inland tent, and then they do their first test of it and murder everyone. They're like, oh, I guess I can't just do that.
Like, it turns out if I do a 90-degree drop and then like a 2-inch radius turn, that might kill some people.
Going back to transport real quick, I might add, to give it a plug, the deluxe version at least had some of the most just catchy jazz MIDI compositions that existed
that
at the time.
music slapped.
I still listen to the soundtrack. They have like full compilations on YouTube. I love it.
Writing down Transport Tycoon.
It's supposed to be kind of like a jazzy kind of soundtrack. But yeah.
I love jazz, so.
And if you want to play the game, there is an open version available for free.
Open TTD is like been carried forward for like since Transport Tycoon Deluxe came out. I think maybe it's been going for like 20+ years. It's actually incredible that they've kept it up that long.
The one downside though is they're not allowed to use the music from the game, so they've placed all the tracks.
Oh, no music. Oh, sad.
You can, like, there is a way to get the music back in.
Yeah, I'm sure if you like, get the tracks otherwise, and yeah.
Speaking of tycoon games, I wanted to bring up Zoo Tycoon 2. That was my tycoon game that I loved. So you're building your own zoo, but like even just the campaign, I found so much fun, and it's where a lot of my like animal knowledge came from. I go to the zoo nowadays and I'm like, oh yes, I know this and this because I played that game. But one of my favorite parts on that one is the fact that you can get down on ground level and basically be a zookeeper instead of just watching from above.
Or one of the patrons.
Yeah, or you can wander around the, sidewalks with the patrons as well, but like you can go and give the animals the bath that they need when they get dirty and clean up, refill the food. So I always was doing that to help save money on zookeepers and janitors and stuff. And it was just so much fun for me.
I will do it myself.
To the point that there was one summer I went to spend like a week or two at my grandma's house. It was just me and my younger sister. Well, I don't know what everyone else was doing, but we were there, and I brought my Zoo Tycoon with me and installed it on my grandma's computer and just started replaying through all the campaigns because I enjoyed that game so much.
Then grandma started playing with you.
No, unfortunately, that grandma did not understand computers. She was not the gaming type.
Granted, I know that she'd, get down in the view to be a zookeeper so she wouldn't have to pay as many to save money in the game, right? And one of the job she'd do was the janitor job of cleaning up all the droppings left behind. And
plus
so I look over, like, what is
that?
A pooper scooper simulator or what?
In a sense, yeah. But it was, save money.
I mean, I'm fairly certain Pooper Scooper Simulator does now exist somewhere on Steam.
Oh, I'm sure it does. There's like a simulator for everything now.
Indeed. I'm playing a simulator. I'm playing one of them right now as we speak. Have y'all ever played Power Washer Simulator?
I have seen clips, but
this is the most zen game I have ever played in my life. It's just so calming because you're just taking dirty things and methodically making them not dirty anymore.
I haven't played the game, but I have watched like power wash videos, and it really is. It's so soothing. It's
so zen, and like in the game, it's great because there's actually a storyline. Like, because when you start a job, you start getting like phone messages from people, and they'll, most of them, like, it starts off, they're just like, hey, just checking in, seeing how the job's going. Hey, that looks really good, that kind of stuff. But as it goes on, you start getting these messages that are like, there is something clearly dark and messed up going on in this town. And like, then they start having you like clean up these
Murder
bigger and bigger
scenes?
jobs. Like at one point, you get to a
That's where my
there's just
thoughts
this-
went to.
there's just this statue of a hand coming out of the ground, and it has 6 fingers, and it's just like, what is going on? It's just like, and it finally ends up culminating at the end of it. It's just like really fun. But then there's all sorts of DLC.
Oh, you know what? I'm mixing this up. I'm mixing them up with like there's one in a space station.
Well, you're thinking of the Viscera.
The cleanup one.
Yeah, the Viscera cleanup crew, something like that.
There was one in a space station that's like Power Wash Simulator. I can't remember what it's
Well,
called.
that one it was like you're playing like a first-person shooter, but you're not the one
Yeah.
with the gun. You're
the
cleaning
one,
up the
you're the
mess
one with the
that
power washer. Yeah.
you're like the guy who cleans up the mess that Doom Guy made, essentially.
After the aliens attacked. Yes, that's. I'm sorry, that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking over Power Wash.
But no,
Simulator.
but this one, it's got, like I said, all sorts of DLC. And
Yeah,
it's, like,
the
licensed
DLC
DLC.
is impressive, actually.
Well, like, I mean, first off, the game is made by Squaresoft. So the first DLC I saw and was like, well, I got to try this, was the Final Fantasy VII patch.
Yeah, the
Where
clean
from?
up Midgar, right?
So
Wow.
so there's like vehicles that you're cleaning up, and there's a full model of the city of Midgar that you clean up at one point. And and then like they have a SpongeBob pack, they have a Warhammer 40K pack.
Back to
For
the
the
Future.
SpongeBob pack,
Back to
is
the Future.
SpongeBob there soaking up water?
No, SpongeBob is the one who's messaging you.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
Well, he'll message you. Plankton will message you. Mr. Krabs, I think, messages you. Yeah. But it's just it's so funny because, like, first off, there's some great modeling done of these games that or sites and stuff like that. Like I said, with Back to the Future, you clean up the DeLorean and it's like fully built out and just really cool. So, like I said, it's the most chill. Just
So
I
I'm
need
just
to relax
curious.
game.
Is there like a time limit element at all?
They have a time trial setting. They have it where you can only use a certain amount of water. The campaign doesn't include that, but each map you unlock, you also unlock the time trial and stuff.
Because I'm just thinking, like, I had a coworker that was, well, a game that I do plan to mention at some point here, but Stardew Valley is like, oh, it's the most relaxing game to play. But for me, I don't find it relaxing at all because I want to maximize my time and get every, every piece
That's
of productivity
right.
I can out of every minute of every day.
Because
in-
you're a
Persona
min-maxer.
grind. It's the
Yeah.
Persona grind.
Yeah, I don't think you're built for this game.
But if Power Wash Simulator, there's no like time limit.
No, there is
Then
no
I can
time
just take
limit.
my time cleaning and not be all panicked about am I being efficient enough.
And like
Um,
you can actually quit the game like basically immediately, and it saves exactly where you are. So
Yeah.
it's just the most relaxed game.
Because I could see that being relaxing because, as Lizzie mentioned earlier, sometimes it's fun just to watch, like there's a power wash company that like cleans rugs. And he'd make videos where he'd like go find just a complete trashed rug from like some dumpster or like go to like a public library and say, hey, I'll clean your rug. And then he makes just a video of just him cleaning it with a power washer. And like I'd sometimes put that on while sitting in a meeting at work, and just to watch this very satisfying rug getting cleaned while I'm listening to a boring meeting at work.
Yep.
I think that's kind of a lot of simulation games. That's sort of what it's about. There's something relaxing about it. I don't tend to play simulation games, but one that I could see myself getting into is the one that Gordon plays all the time, is the flight sim.
Flight sims are pretty zen. I actually came kind of late to the franchise. I decided suddenly that I was a big boy and I made big boy money, and I could afford some extra peripherals.
Big boy
And
toys.
yeah, and a fancy computer. I'm like, well, why shouldn't I play Flight Simulator? I deserve it. I've earned this.
Why
So-
shouldn't I keep it?
And so that's how it started for me. Although I probably am a weirdo in the flight sim community because I started on X-Plane 11 rather than Microsoft Flight Simulator, which
And why is
actually
that
ended up
weird?
coming out. Well, because Microsoft Flight Simulator is very popular and very well known, and pretty much like the standard out there. And X-Plane is made by this goofy guy and his ragtag bunch of engineering nerds. But he kind of resembles me, and so that's how I ended up falling into that rabbit hole.
Because you can only play games if you look identical to the developer.
I look pretty similar actually to the developer, except I don't wear glasses.
I mean, that's why I read Brandon Sanderson.
That's easy enough to fix. Just put on some glasses.
Sure, and I'd have to dye my hair red, but also yes.
No, so here's the thing. I've heard Flight Simulator, at least of the newer ones, like it's actually incredibly realistic, and there's now privacy concerns. It's so realistic. Is that?
If you talk about like Microsoft Flight Simulator, for example, they use Bing Maps, and so it's as invasive as whatever Bing's data is on
Gotcha.
your local neighborhood or whatever.
What wasn't the big controversy like back in 2001? Like, wasn't there actually some use of Microsoft Flight Simulator?
Certain people like learning how to use it to fly into certain areas.
Exactly.
Sure, but I mean the simulators have been around for like
absolutely. This
almost
isn't
as long
me
as
like
pilots have been, right?
absolutely.
So,
This isn't a like. I'm saying
That's how realistic it is.
exactly.
Right. I mean, I don't know if it was exactly. I mean, it probably was Microsoft Flight Simulator because they're really the only game in town. But yeah, I mean, I think they also went to a real flight school to actually like handle real controls because it's only as good as your home rig is, and they really don't sell exactly like the buttons and the yoke and everything exactly as an aircraft, especially an airliner.
So what is the gameplay for Flight Simulator? Like, cause all I can think of is just, flying over things.
Yeah, is there a gamification aspect of it, or?
Well, you don't always have to fly the jumbos. You can fly smaller aircraft, stunt aircraft.
Well, I remember there was a flight simulator that I think came with like a copy of Windows 95 that we had, and I don't remember what it was, but it had modes where like you could be a fighter pilot in World War II, you could fly a more modern plane, and there was even a mode where like you could fly in space in like a futuristic dogfight. So
there was like a stunt simulator, I think, or stunt pilot simulator that's kind of like how you describe. But yeah, where you have to achieve certain stunts and to fly your plane through different things or land in different weird locations or like go under a bridge, that kind of thing. Maybe it's similar to what you're talking about.
I mean, my first flight sim was a game called Jet Fighter.
Just Jet Fighter?
Just Jet Fighter. And I remember playing it as early as the late 80s.
Wow.
And it had to have been like one of the first 3D modeled games that existed.
I mean,
they were
was it color? Was it?
There was color. Yeah, there was color.
Were there textures?
No textures.
Okay, there we go.
Absolutely
like,
no
how
textures.
primitive are we talking here? Like that tank simulator.
Like each jet was maybe 5 polygons.
What was that? What was that tank simulator? It was Battle Space.
Battle Zone.
Battle Zone.
Yeah.
The vector-based graphics.
Right. Now this was beyond vector, so yeah, it is newer than that one certainly. But I would only ever fly. I mean, I was so young. I would only ever fly the tutorial over and over and over again against an aircraft that, of course, never shot back. But from there, I would go on to other combat flight simulators like Chuck Yeager's Air Combat, Microprose had several. They had F-117 Stealth Fighter, F-15 Strike Eagle.
There are several World War One and Two.
Red Baron.
Well. Yeah,
that wasn't Microprose, but Chuck Yeager's Air Combat was interesting because it covered 3 wars. It covered World War II, and then it also covered Korea and Vietnam.
Yeah,
but there were only...
Korea.
Say again?
Chuck Yeager definitely had to hit Korea.
Yeah. But there were only... There were 6 flyable aircraft, 1 aircraft from each side. So for World War II, you could fly the P-51 for the Americans or the F-109A for the Germans. There were other aircraft in the game, but those were the only flyable ones. Korea, you had the F-86 Sabres for America, and then the MiG-15s for Russia, North Korea. They were all Russian pilots, but North Korea.
Jet planes.
Yeah. And then for Vietnam, it was the MiG-21 and the F-4 Phantoms. And I never played... Those games had full sim controls, but I was, being as young as I was, I never delved into that because there was no way I was going to be able to...
So you were doing this on a keyboard and a mouse?
I was doing this on a mouse. No, just a keyboard, no mouse. We didn't have mice yet. Just keyboard.
Oh my gosh! I'm imagining you just doing the fine tuning in the 3 axes.
I managed it somehow. I was able to pull it off.
I just remember in middle school we had it wasn't like Shop, but it was something like Shop. But they had a small CAD program as well, and there was a module you do that was all about aerospace stuff, and they had some sort of low-level flight sim, and I don't think a single person in that class all year long figured out how to land a thing.
Landing is always the hardest part.
Every plane that took off had a launch pad landing. I just realized the brilliance of his name being Launchpad. You don't...
drop gear, drop flaps, and pray.
Yep.
Landing gear down.
It could have been worse. It could have been something new.
I'm remembering actually when you're talking about really old. One of the first flight sims I played was a game called Echelon. Oddly enough, it was made by those same folks that made those full motion video text adventure games that we talked about. The Tex Murphy games a couple of episodes ago. They did a flight sim, and it was all vector-based graphics, but it was in space. And there was this whole there was a whole storyline behind it and everything. You had to collect puzzles. It was really high concept for a 6-year-old Gordon to figure out.
Yeah, well, Brett now plays competitive flight simulators.
And
you're a War Thunder? You're going War Thunder?
I do play War Thunder. However, stipulation, I am a total arcade scrub in War Thunder. I have not delved into the sim aspect of it. I do have a HOTUS, but it's a very simple one. And I tried playing IL-2 Sturmovik for a time. I didn't get very far with that.
I'm gonna brag on
HOTUS?
Yeah, what is a HOTUS?
A HOTUS, hands-on throttle and stick. It's a combination joystick and throttle for flight sim enthusiasts.
Got it.
Yeah, and I got one eventually to play Elite Dangerous with. Because before I'd play Elite Dangerous using a PlayStation 4 controller.
What is Elite Dangerous? I keep seeing that come up when
Elite Dangerous
friends
is
playing
amazing, but Looney, I'll let you take it.
So, have you guys ever played Freelancer?
No.
Okay.
Have you ever watched Firefly?
I mean, I have, but Looney already knows this. Okay, yes. Have you ever?
But basically, you're I wouldn't exactly. You can be a mercenary, but you're just someone in space who needs to make a living, either as a mercenary or sorry, kid just walked in.
You could be a trader, basically a glorified space trucker. Or you could be an explorer.
It's everything Star Citizen was supposed to have been if it was released on a timely schedule.
Oh boy! I bet we could get you going.
One of these days, we're gonna have the Star Citizen episode, and it's just gonna be me bringing Brett in here, and it's just gonna be like, Brett, how does it make you feel? And then it's just gonna be a therapy session.
No, look, I can sum my expression on Star Citizen in a single sentence. It is a terribly mismanaged project.
Well, and the thing is
I haven't, like, there is playable aspects of Star Citizen, but I can't do it because for some reason, every time I try, I instantly lose connection to the server and get kicked.
Yeah, I feel like there's this big war between the Star Citizen crowd and the Elite Dangerous crowd, and it usually goes along the lines of, Star Citizen, our game's going to be better, it's going to be so much better, and the Elite Dangerous crowd just says,
our game came out.
Our game came out like 10 years ago.
So it's like it's the Brandon Sanderson versus Patrick Rothfuss argument.
Yeah, exactly. And because I mean, they both were announced and started around the same time, but Elite Dangerous released.
All I know is I live in a world where Duke Nukem Forever did eventually come out, so I'm not willing to write anything off anymore.
Okay, hold on.
Beyond Good and Evil someday.
Always believe Half-Life.
Pirate said something and I missed it while you guys were talking concerning Elite Dangerous.
I was just mentioning that Elite Dangerous says, great as it is, I got into it far too late in its life cycle. I mean, it really is kind of in its waning days. The community support is slowly dying down. The updates are coming less frequently, less, making less of an impact. It's still a fun game, but like once you get to a certain point, you can just kind of like, there's not a whole lot more.
I mean, at the same time, I feel like there's still tons to do because I haven't, I've played it a lot, but I think there's a lot of content to go through. I mean, the thing that's really cool about Elite Dangerous is that the play world is a literal one-to-one representation of the known universe.
Yeah, so it's a galactic simulator. It's
a galactic simulator. It's really cool.
Oh, so just something really small.
So, you start out at a star system and you can fly anywhere in the Milky Way galaxy.
They
awesome.
usually generate the systems, so it's not like they're exactly like if you look on a real star chart you'd find. But I mean, they do have real systems in there, to be sure.
Well, that's the thing. It does require their servers, but as far as for, how much space does it take for them to do that? I mean, most of space is empty space, so it's mostly just keeping track of how far apart places are. And when you go into an instance, it probably just generates like, an empty area, and then, if there's anything interesting where like space pirates or other traders would show up, they probably just get generated. So I think a lot of it's kind of procedurally done. It's not like they put super detail on the planets, but
yeah, I mean,
they have a lot of detail as for like the positioning of stars, as we know it in our knowledge of the galaxy, and the size of stars. It's like I know people that just like to go exploring, because one of the ways you can make money is just to explore the universe and help map it out, because you can sell map data to different colonies that you encounter. And I remember Dane, our friend Dane, went all the way to what was it, Beetlejuice, and Beetlejuice is like a huge gas giant, right?
That's 2 times. Don't say it anymore.
And he's like, when he went up there, he's like, I just cannot, fathom the scale of this. Like the fact that it was 2 scale, it just kind of blew his mind to actually kind of see just how large that star is compared to other stars. And I don't know, it's a fun game. I enjoyed it. It was the reason why I decided to buy a HOTAS myself.
I took the trip out to Sagittarius A myself, the giant supermassive black hole in the center of the galaxy. That's also a cool
Did
sight.
you get sucked in?
They don't let you. You have built-in
so the ship like repulses you if you get too close.
Doesn't let you go beyond.
They don't want to commit to having to recreate spaghettification. The cowards.
Yeah, and and I just have a lot of fun, collecting bounties and being a bounty hunter. Uh, Honestly, I find that easier to deal with than trying to be a trader because when you're trading, you want a ship that can haul a bunch of cargo, but that just makes you a target.
Okay,
Whereas
Looney,
if you-
And you have to be able to
trader.
sell high.
What?
You said I heard traitor.
I did too.
I have a little. I'm sorry, my nose is still a little stuffy. Trader.
Trader Joe.
Trainer.
Merchant. Let's go with merchant then.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yes. If you want to be a merchant, you're a target for pirates. Whereas if you outfit your ship to take down pirates, you're the one who initiates the fight because they don't see anything worth stealing off of you. So you have a bit of an advantage as a bounty hunter. So that's typically the way I like to play it, to earn money in that game. I mean, the downside is ultimately you're just trying to get more money to buy a bigger, better ship. But
And then
it's
you have
fun.
so much money, and then you're like, well, there's nothing left. And like they do have events. The Thargoid War is pretty interesting, I thought.
Yeah, that's the thing. I played it before they brought in the aliens attacking, but I never actually jumped in to participate in that.
That's actually some pretty dang hard combat.
I would imagine, yeah.
Oh,
But
so
I thoroughly enjoyed like Looney was saying. One of the things you could do is you could just go out into the black and go explore, and and I just would the funny thing is like you get a big bonus for being the first to map a system, and so it's funny because you can go to maps and see where everyone's been, and you can see there's popular routes that everyone takes the direct straight line, and so what you have to do is you have to go out maybe 100 light years in one direction and then take a different angle if you want to head somewhere, and then you'll be hitting completely pristine, never before traveled worlds. I mean, there must be hundreds of thousands of systems in this game.
I feel like this is some Ender's Game crap they're pulling on us, and we're actually exploring the galaxy.
The thought has crossed the mind.
So I want to switch back real quick to War Thunder because I want to brag on Breakfast because this is one of my favorite gaming stories ever.
Here it is.
When he lived with
You
us,
shared this one already.
not here, I haven't. So when he was living with us, he was playing War Thunder, and I was sitting behind, asking probably annoying questions and asking him how things work. And then he was talking about
Water.
Not that, thankfully. But I was like, so what? He's like, yeah, these have rockets. I'm like, rockets? How on earth do you get killed with rockets? That seems really difficult. And he's in the middle of doing a full-on somersault or whatever to get above someone, and he angles down, and then he fires a rocket immediately, angles it perfectly, blows them up, and he just goes, "That's how." It was just so hardcore cool. I'm just laughing. Oh, I bet he feels good right now.
There was a dopamine hit, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, how could it not? It was perfect.
Unfortunately, I can no longer recreate that activity because they have since tightened the damage models, and it is significantly more difficult to
Dump by rockets.
hit enemy planes with rockets now.
That's too bad.
Yeah, well, they can't steal
Although
that
they did-
moment from you.
They did add an airburst mechanic, but you have to get the distance just right.
Makes sense. But no, okay. So there's another type of sim game that I want to talk about, mostly because I don't really understand what they are. Lizzie, can you explain what Rune Factory is? Because there's an entire subgenre of sim games with anime characters that I see pictures for, and I'm like, I don't know what this is.
I'll be honest, I'm in the same boat.
Oh, it's a farming sim that you can kill monsters in.
I mean,
if you've ever played a Harvest Moon, it's along that same line. You've inherited a farm, and you're building up this farm, and you're building up relationships with people in the town. And so Rune Factory took it one step further in that there were monsters to fight as well. And so you're also trying to increase your combat to fight these monsters and save the town.
Yeah, the original subtitle for the game was a fantasy Harvest Moon.
So
Yeah.
story with this, which includes Baggins. One of those first Smash nights that I was there for up at college,
I remember.
I
this.
overheard Baggins talking with Loonsar about this
Dragon's
game.
Basement.
Yeah, this was in the basement of Dragon's Keep. And I'm sitting there listening, and you're like, oh yeah, it's a hard to find game, but it's really fun. And he seemed all interested. And I went to GameStop at work whenever I next worked. Somebody traded in Rune Factory that day. And I was like, okay, I've heard this is rare. I'm going to buy this. This is one of the ways that I wooed Loonsar. I purposely bought that game so that he could play it on my DS and I could sit next to him and watch.
True story.
You catfished him with Rune Factory.
I think I offered to loan it to him at one point, and he said no need. So you've clarified something.
Yeah, that was the thing. I was planning to borrow it from you, but then she magically showed up with, hey, look what I found at work.
By the power of anime.
It's not Rune Factory, it's Woo Factory.
So yeah, that was one of the ways that our relationship progressed.
So Looney and Lizzie, tell your kids you're welcome.
I know, each could have played a part in some way, right?
Wow, okay, now all three of you are claiming credit.
Look,
Let's
they
be
never
real.
would have
None-
even
none-
met if it
yeah.
hadn't been for me.
No, but for me, I'm the one who made Smash Night. I take full
I'm
credit.
not.
No,
I don't
because
need
they
to claim
met.
full credit. I'm just happy to be a part of it.
They
You'll
met
have the only
because
one
I
not
knew
claiming
both
to take credit.
Looney and Lizzie. And Lizzie was rooming with my sister, and Looney was rooming with me. Lizzie wouldn't have known about Quark if it hadn't have been for me.
Yes,
I
breakfast
prefer
is
my
the
version
reason
of
I knew
events.
Quark.
Nah, it's me. I got it. But
So
there's
yeah,
this.
that's been a bit of an important game for our relationship. There's 5 numbered ones, but then there were 2 other games that didn't have the numbers. So 7 total different games in that series. And it's a lot of fun. My personal favorite character is Kurina from the 3rd. And I remember wearing that costume to a Cork event once, and I won most obscure costume because no one knew who I was.
Nice.
I thought that was a category we had.
Yeah. So
wait, what about Reciteer?
It makes me think of Reciteer.
Oh, that's a great one.
you
What
know,
is it?
it'd be funny. So I mean, before we go there, I just want to mention that this was based off of Harvest Moon, and I know Stardew Valley says that he grew up loving Harvest Moon and that's why he made it, but I feel like he must have played Rune Factory because the gameplay of Stardew Valley is much closer.
Well, he
to
put combat
With
in
the
it.
social links and the
Combat in it.
combats, yeah.
Well, I mean, Rune Factory was Harvest Moon with combat added, and Stardew Valley has the combat system as well. So,
Yeah. Although I feel like the combat in Harvest or in Stardew Valley works better than any of the Harvest Moon and Rune Factory ones. Personal.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't exactly call that. I wouldn't call any of them great on combat, including Stardew.
Stardew, I enjoy it though. The others, it was kind of painful to me.
Until those
Rune
flying
Factory
snake
can be a
things
little
come, I hate that.
stressful.
What's that?
I hate the
Is that-
flying snakes.
Ah,
Oh gosh,
That's
the
true.
flying
Those are
snakes,
annoying.
yeah.
The snakes that are
saying, like,
planes.
Rune Factory combat can get stressful. It gets intense at times, whereas I don't feel like Stardew Valley ever got that intense.
Yeah, though I will admit, I do feel like Stardew Valley has a bit more polish than, especially, well, you're on the screen, you're playing Rune Factory 2, which is probably the roughest of the Rune Factories by far. Especially because it have dungeons that require pineapples to progress, and I'm like, great, that takes a whole season to grow. Well, I guess it'll be
Why? Okay,
That's the
no,
story.
I need to now understand. Why would you need pineapples to progress?
This isn't like pineapple is in like a euphemism for a grenade or something.
Yeah.
No, for whatever reason in Rune Factory 2, and this is part of what makes it the roughest of the Rune Factories. So in all the Rune Factories, there actually is a story progression that requires you to go through all the dungeons, right?
Okay.
And for whatever reason in Rune Factory 2, they're like, oh, we'll make it, the dungeon progression will have little altars that block the paths, and you have to make an offering of specific produce to get past.
Oh man!
And since produce is specific to a season being grown, it's kind of a pain. Now, granted, each dungeon is like related to a season, so you can always grow. If you plant a garden in the dungeon, you can grow it even if it's out of season, if it's that season's dungeon. But watering plants that aren't on your farm but are in the middle of a dungeon are kind of a pain to deal with. So yeah, it was kind of the rough, weak part of Rune Factory series.
I've never considered seasonal dungeons.
Oh yeah, totally a thing.
Never had a situation where I was like, oh no, Blackrock Depths isn't ripe yet.
I mean, you played TikTok Woods, didn't you?
Wasn't
TikTok Woods.
That's not a sim game. We can't talk about that.
But it's a seasonal dungeon.
I'd say level more so the dungeon, but I think that's getting a bit...
persnickety.
That's a good word. I like that. Use that more.
I should use that more. I usually go to pedantic, but persnickety's good.
I mean, to be pedantic, it's pedantic, not pedantic.
Aha, you fell for the nerd snipe. I love it.
All right. Okay. So this is the other thing. What's Reciteer? I've heard this, but I don't know what it is.
Reciteer is a game where you're running an item shop for adventurers.
Capitalism, ho!
Oh.
And so it's like
interesting.
Like in an RPG, you know how you go to the item shop? You are playing the person who is running the item shop.
I don't know how you could make that compelling gameplay, but I've heard this enough times that I know I am speaking false.
It's funner than it has any right to be.
Well, the thing is,
everyone haggles with you. Everyone.
well, that and this concept.
Hold on, that's not accurate. You never get to haggle in an RPG.
Well, the concept.
You do.
In Fallout, you can.
So the concept that became Reciteer and other stuff, it actually started in Dragon Quest IV. That, as far as I know, that was the first time you played as, there was a part of Dragon Quest IV where you played as an item shop merchant, and you'd be able, so you could go into the dungeon, find stuff, and then you go back to your shop, and then you can sell it. Mm-hmm. And people would come in and try to sell you things. And I don't know, when I first played Dragon Quest IV, I thought that chapter where you played as the merchant was a ton of fun. And if you played it long enough where you're just in the item shop, someone would bring in a rare sword that, like, you're not supposed to be able to get this early in the game, but you can if you play the mini game of running the shop long enough. And then when people come to try and buy it, I would always say, no, you can't buy this sword, because I wanted to buy it myself and I only had one in stock. So I was working till I could have the money and then buy it myself from my own shop and have a uber powerful sword way early in the game.
You were the jerk who worked at the store and reserved the rare items for yourself.
Oh yeah, in Dragon Quest IV? Heck yeah, I did.
It's like when the PS5s come out and the people who work there said something aside, nope, we're out of them. Sorry, you can't buy it.
Wait a minute. And Lizzie did that with Rune Factory. It runs rampant in this family.
Well, okay, to be fair, it was somebody traded it in and I immediately bought it. I didn't set it aside. I bought it right there while I was working.
We're on to you.
Give her a break.
Show me the receipt.
Sounds
They
like
have
insider
changed
trading.
the rules. You have to keep an item for like a week before you can sell it now. So I was lucky that rule wasn't in place at that time.
Maybe you're the reason that rule is in place.
Look, there's someone in every company where there's some weird policy and you're like, why is that a policy? And there's someone who sits there just very nervously at the meeting knowing that they're the reason for the policy.
But
on a tangent to this though.
Well, I was going to say really quickly though.
All right, go
it
on.
actually spun off. If you've ever heard of the what is it, the Mystery Dungeon series? Like,
Don't know
there's,
it.
There's Pokemon,
Like Pokemon Mystery Dungeons?
There's all sorts of Mystery Dungeon games, and a lot of them they go to
Wait,
other-
there's more mystery
Oh.
dungeons than just Pokemon?
I thought it was a
In
Pokemon
fact,
thing.
It was a
I thought
spin-off.
so.
I
Mystery
had no
Dungeon
clue.
was originally a spin-off of Dragon Quest IV, the chapter where you played as the merchant. It's the very first Mystery Dungeon game. You were the Dragon Quest IV merchant who would go into dungeons to find rare treasure, and that's how that whole series started. And of course, a spiritual successor to that concept would be Reciteer.
I had no clue. I'm learning
The
so
game,
much.
Moonlighter's a similar concept.
But I don't know. It's actually fun to be able to dungeon delve for items and then sell them in a store.
Man, I am learning so much here today. This has been very informative so far. All right. Those were sort of the ones I was prepared to talk about in detail. I want to hear about any horrible things you've seen done to Sims or that you did to Sims.
Well-
It's like in the game The Sims.
Yes.
Oh,
Or in general, actually. Let's open it up.
I had a friend who married the Grim Reaper.
Kind of a boss move.
So
I did.
I think she had to hack the game or like put in some
she
sort of
hacked or
cheat
mod
code.
it.
But basically, it made it so the Grim Reaper was a wooable character, and so she had. Now the kids that were produced were actually quite attractive. You know, they were just gorgeous as they, you know, because they would then later become adults. You're just like, wow. So apparently, Death's got good genes.
Not what I would have guessed.
I've
Oh,
also
yeah.
never heard of anyone calling Sims characters attractive before.
Oh gosh.
Did you know that in The Sims you can have ghost babies?
I'm sorry, what?
I
Oh,
learned
yes.
that if you kill off one of your Sims spouses, so say you kill off the husband, the wife can still get pregnant with her dead husband and have ghost babies.
Do they come out as ghosts?
Yes, they are like kind of see-through.
I have
ghost
so many
babies.
questions, but I don't think I want to ask them.
Yeah, The Sims gets all sorts of crazy.
Well, yeah, like, what was it, Sims 2, where, like, when they died, their ghost would hang around or something like that?
Yeah, it would have had to been Sims 2, I think. That was maybe it was
Yeah,
Sims 3, but the first one that didn't work.
Each version we strayed farther from our god.
Oh dear.
This is absolute truth.
I had no clue. Okay.
And then the expansions start coming in with aliens and
know.
vampires.
So
and,
many expansions. The Sims is notorious.
I was really happy when they made it that you could have like part of your family move out, because then I didn't have to kill anyone when I got bored playing with them. I just made them move out.
Said like a true sociopath. They made me kill them. I'm the victim here.
I end up with a favorite, and I just want to play with just them. And it's like, well, all these other ones keep bugging me. I need
and
to
they
get
get
rid of
so
them.
yeah.
I don't care that you're only 13. You're out of here. Get gone.
I will fully admit I had probably a bit of a sociopathic tendency. Most of my experimentation was with the first Sims, the original Sims game. I would conduct like experiments that would have made Harvard and Berkeley blanch.
No, I actually had to completely delete The Sims 3 and remove it from my Steam account because I found that I had a problem. Like I would blink and lose days, and I was just like, this is not okay.
It is a weirdly addictive game. I don't understand why.
It's weird. I had a similar experience. I had to uninstall and remove Sims 3 from my library, too.
Man, I
Am I the only one who's never actually played a Sims game?
same here. I've never played it.
Well,
And
I mean, the only reason I got into The Sims was kind of a bank shot, is because I was already a fan of the Maxis brand, basically.
Okay, let's talk about like the original Sim games, like Sim City.
Oh, SimCity. OG SimCity is fun.
Yeah, the OGs. The first place I saw original SimCity was actually on our school Macintosh of all places.
Wow, first I saw it was on a Super NES.
First I saw it was on a 5x3 floppy disk.
I saw it was on a
Big fat ones that were
386.
still floppy.
5 1/4.
Yes, 5 1/4.
Don't copy that floppy.
On a black and white monochrome screen.
Okay, so as someone who's never touched any of the Sims City games, I tried to play City Skylines, and I can't figure out the appeal. Like this, it's not scratching an itch for me. So, for people who like these games, why do these games appeal to you? What is it? What is the sauce?
So it scratched an itch for me, but I sucked at it, and so it didn't scratch the itch long enough for me to stick with it for forever.
City Skylines is good stuff, though after a while it turns into decongest the traffic simulator.
Yeah, City Skylines is, well, as a city simulator goes, it's kind of more of a city painter almost. I
What do
feel
you
like
mean?
I feel like it's not as simmy, I guess, for lack of a better term. They don't really make you work that hard to develop your city, because you pretty much can build and plop a lot of things. I mean, yeah, you do have to develop like your
SimCity is the same
So-
way. I didn't notice that special
well,
difference.
man, SimCity 2000 was it. Boy,
Oh, I love SimCity 2000.
SimCity 2000 really made you work to get the higher rated buildings. You know, the skyscraper. I mean, like for me personally, every time I did a SimCity, I ultimately wanted to get to a city that supported skyscrapers, but you know that requires a certain level of population and land value that takes honestly a while to work your way up to. I mean, first you have to the SimCity games, I feel like more than City Skylines. City Skylines, I never had trouble making budget. SimCity, my gosh, I was in the red all the time. You know, like trying to find ways to cut corners, and then the transit guy is yelling at me, "You will regret this."
Jeez Louise, this is starting to sound like a Obsidian game again.
That's right. You will regret this.
The advisors in SimCity
Gosh.
2000 were relentless at times.
So
You're like, shut up, Kami.
So I remember playing the ill-fated SimCity with you, Petrivka.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
I don't
Explain.
remember much of what happened other than
you
the release was
were part of
bad.
that? Oh no.
Oh, I pre-ordered. That was
Oh
last.
no.
I know. Well, the last.
Okay,
time.
I need you guys to explain, because Lee's making noises that tell me something bad happened, but I have no clue what we're talking about.
It
Okay,
was
so-
bad.
It's one of the most notorious game launches of all time, man. You didn't
Yeah,
hear
see-
about this?
Might have.
Because
I don't
got
remember
it because it had multiplayer. And
You don't remember
Petrivka
me yelling
moved.
Splice?
No, I don't. It's been over 10 years. Get off my back
guess
about
was
it.
2013. I wasn't actually living with you at the time.
It was shortly after you left, and like I said,
true.
that's why I had it, because it was one that you were excited about. You lived across country and it had multiplayer. I was like, I'll check this thing out.
So yeah, so they released a demo before, which is brilliant. You know, like very few games were doing that at this point, where they would release a demo before the full release, and the demo was super fun. They only gave you an hour, I think it was, of game time, but you know, like that's enough time to have a little bustling little town, for lack of a better term. And you have all you can see all the fun little things. The people actually going to individual houses and
Because they
individual
actually had like
workplaces.
individual Sims in this. And it was,
Yeah, because it was always abstracted at some level. It was like, yeah, they're generally going over here, but here each house had its own individual Sims that you could follow around
with a
and-
name, and yeah,
they had
like you see them go to
went and
work. and-
filled needs and all that kind of stuff, and it was just like, whoa, this is really deep, and it was exciting. And in an hour, you're just like, oh man, how much more could I possibly do? And then the launch came, and for whatever reason, EA which had purchased Maxis at this point, decided this had to be an always online game. And they
Sensing
were
a red
not
flag?
prepared. They were not prepared. There was no connection for like what maybe the first week and a half.
Oh,
Baggins.
it was bad.
It was almost 2 weeks before like the majority of people were able to get in and even play the game. And then it was laggy. Like that was the thing that was weird because it kept phoning home for whatever reason. Like even though you weren't like necessarily playing with anybody, it was sending some sort of data that they were collecting, doing who knows what.
Yeah.
And then sadly, we found out that hour of gameplay that you had only had about another half hour left before you filled the map, and there was nothing more for you to really do with your little map plot because you filled it.
Well, like, and they were hyping all of this, online capabilities, like, so you can actually go to your friends' towns and connect them and share resources. It just didn't work.
Yeah, there were projects that you could have one city, specialize in making like, I don't know, like nuclear fuel, say, and then like another person builds concrete plants, and you can build a nuclear power plant, and then where it gets free electricity. But you would send over like oh, I just sent like, I don't know, 1,000 containers of whatever,
Right.
and like, do you see it, Bill? And you're like, no.
And so
like a day later, do you see it? No.
I didn't have it.
Where did it go?
The other thing I remember, and this, I don't remember if this was an isolated incident or if it happened a couple times, but I remember there was one time where I sat and I played for like an hour and a half, and like, I think it was because it was always online, it was saved on their server. I came back the next day and nothing that I had done was still there. It was just
wiped
gone.
it. Oh man.
And I was just like, well, that's worthless. So I stopped playing it pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, like the
This doesn't sound ideal.
The community aspect was supposed to be like maybe the thought was like, well, your map sizes aren't so big, but if you build a few of them together, then you can do cooler things and make a larger built up. But like the communication between the regions just did not work at all, or it's extremely slow. I mean, I think it took like maybe 2 or 3 days, and then finally like, hey, that 1,000 containers of whatever shows up. But like by this point, I'm like, I'm done doing that. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a game that works.
Yeah, and the saddest thing is, like all this is going on, and the developers are out like, well, we're so excited to hear that there's such a high demand. We have processed 200,000 toilet flushes, and I'm like, I don't care how many freaking toilet flushes you collected over like however many players. I just want the game to work.
Yeah, well, what they were trying to tell you is that their game was a turd and that you needed to get rid of it.
Yeah, and I don't know. After like maybe 3 weeks, if I'm being generous, I gave up on it.
Yeah,
and I think Baggins gave up on it, and I think thousands of others followed suit because that was the death knell for the storied developer known as Maxis, because they got shuttered after this release.
Yeah, it was rough.
Well, luckily, we don't have an issue with bigger studios making decisions that lead to the closure of smaller studios.
Oh no, that's never happened.
Yeah, so
but before
the
we
EA
leave,
in particular.
Yeah, no.
Before we leave Maxis behind, though, there was a sim game that I feel was vastly underappreciated, and I remember loving it when I was younger. And it may not have been as good a game as I remember, but I just, for some reason, it hit the right button for me, and that was Sim Tower.
Saito's Sim Tower.
I'm sorry.
What
Did you
say?
just? I think he came down with Tourette's out of nowhere.
Saito. So it was actually a Japanese developer that partnered with Maxis to make this game.
I remember loving the game, and I didn't know how to play it well.
It was fun. That game was so fun.
So fun. Like, it was one of those where the UI just felt good. Like, you build a floor and you hear this just satisfying ka-chunk, and you're like, ooh, I did something.
Okay, so I understand the concept of building a city and how that could lead to gameplay. How does Sim Tower lead to gameplay?
So Sim Tower, you're basically building like a mega structure that has apartments and restaurants and
Office spaces.
office
and
spaces.
Okay.
And,
Stores.
Gotcha.
but like you start off building the lobby, and you can have a 1-story, 2-story, or 3-story lobby, and then you start building the things on top, and you have to have elevators that work with it. And if you have apartments, you have to have food and stuff that you can have next. And
the elevators
was
being
fun.
like it was basically elevator simulator, because
It really
like,
was.
most of the sauce was finding a way to get like the right frequency and the right amount of elevators to
And
service
to
the tower.
connect the right things with everything. Yeah.
Not what I would have guessed to be compelling gameplay.
Oh man, but the sound,
was-
sounds are like embedded in the wrinkles of my brain.
Uh-huh. It was so good.
Yeah, and there was the progression element there too, because once you got like a certain number of like tenants or whatever, you would go to the next star that would unlock additional like
Yes.
things you could build,
Yes.
condos, different stores, cinemas,
and fancier restaurants. And
Did you say enemas?
fancier
Like-
things.
so like you're
Cinemas.
turning
Cinemas.
so-
That's what I was very confused for a moment as to what type
So,
of
like,
game
you-
this was.
So like you start with just a basic, you've got apartments and you got an office space, and then you start opening to like luxury apartments and to a fancier, and you can go in but you also have to do space management, because like once you build something, it's difficult to replace it with something else, wasn't it?
Yeah, because well, for one thing, like the condos were notoriously difficult because those were owned, like the actual
Yes.
like space, and so once someone was in there, like you couldn't do anything to it unless they
Right.
moved out. Unlike the office spaces, which were rented and you could kick out someone whenever to blow it up and build a parking lot or whatever.
But no, it was so good.
They did make a sequel actually.
Did they?
But I think they took off the Sim Tower name, and it was just
Okay.
Taito's Tower or something.
But it's just
like that.
Of everybody I talked to about sim games, nobody has heard of this one for some reason.
Oh well, you found me.
No,
I am
I've
so
heard
happy.
of Sim Tower, but I've never played it. But I had a friend who played Sim Tower. He also played a lot of Sim Farm.
Okay.
But I have heard of Sim Tower.
So I mean, if we're talking Sims, I mean I don't want to dominate the conversation, but my personal favorite
Go for it.
was Sim Ant.
And
Okay, I was
wondering when that
I was
come
gonna
up.
ask about
Let's
Sim
go.
Ant, because when I saw Sim Ant in stores as a kid, my brain was blown. It's just like, what is this? I don't understand.
So Sim Ant was just, yeah, like you said. I mean, like it was like when you first play it, like I'm immediately drawn to like, oh, this is like me looking down at the grass in my backyard and seeing ants run around and doing stuff, whatever it is that ants do. And so you're like, well, what does the ants do? And then you find like, well, you need to collect food and to grow your colony. And you're like, okay, I'll go. Then so there's like little every now and again, like little green blobs of food will appear, and you can like go double click on it and pick it up, bring it back to your little nest, and that can help feed your colony. And before too long, you realize that there are red ants. The red ants are the enemy,
Frickin'
and they
red
will
ants.
fight you. And so, you are black ants. I mean, your actual avatar is yellow, so you stand out among all of them. And so you can recruit your fellow ants to come with you and like stage like full invasions of
Fight
the red
with you
ant.
for anthem.
And so like most there's a few different modes, but like usually the goal was to defeat the red ants and take over. But there is a whole campaign where you have to take over a house and its yard, and it's so fun because you start up in the yard, and this is you're typically you're rolling around the grass, you're having to fight spiders, you have to watch out for the lawnmower. The lawnmower was instant death to anything that was above ground. So when you heard the lawnmower coming, you had to dig underground as fast as you could, because otherwise you just die. But eventually, you spread your colonies out, and then you invade the house, and the house is so much fun because you're running around in the kitchen. You have to avoid like the power outlets because you'll get electrocuted and die. But like also like the humans will try and like spray ant killer on you, and you have to watch out for them. But eventually, you just spread so much that you overwhelm the owners, and they leave, and you pretty much you win the game.
Is this
And that, like,
Untitled Goose Game, but ants?
I mean, or Goat Simulator, take your pick. This was the original. I mean, this game came out in like 1994, I think.
Yeah, I was
and-
definitely a kid when it existed.
The one that
And-
came out around the same time that I remember is Bug Wars.
91.
Whoa. Bug Wars, or maybe I'm thinking of one called Battle Bugs or something.
Oh, that might be the one. It might be Battle Bugs.
Yeah, it was a turn-based like combat, right?
Yeah, and like you're training up like spiders, and like you have all sorts of
And
different kinds of bugs.
and you plant a flag on like a pizza or something.
Yeah.
To claim it. Yeah. I know this game. I know this game. Yeah, Sim Ant. Also, that game also came with a glorious manual. I learned way more than a second grader should ever know about ants, unlike maybe a college level education as a result of the manual that came with Sim Ant.
Yeah, Battle Bugs was Sierra Online, which is what I thought.
Loved Sim Ant. What I didn't love was a game called Sim Town. That was probably my biggest regret.
How's that different from SimCity?
Smaller scale.
So SimTown, like the promise was like, yeah, it's smaller scale, but like this is still pre The Sims, and so, but it promised like, hey, you're down at like the individual house level, and you can see your citizens, and they
Like a
have
neighborhood.
custom looks. You have your own character that you can like, and it was very much geared towards the age I was, like a 10, 11-year-old at the time. You can get a skateboard or a bicycle and customize your look, and you can just go around the little town that you make. But like everything was just like you just clicked from a selection of pre-built whatevers, you plopped it down, and that was all there was to it. Like there wasn't so much simulation per se, as in like, well, you needed to provide services for your people or whatever. The only thing that they were interested in doing was a pollution simulation, which to me sounds a little like gosh, like I built seven houses and a grocery store, and now my air has become blackened. And the solution to cleaning it up is to go into like this pollution overview map and click clean air, and it just cleans it.
Man.
Well, wait, the realism for that's amazing.
Why aren't we doing that now?
Yeah, why aren't our
like,
politicians just hitting clean air button? My freaking goodness.
I'm afraid that like the fourth and fifth grader in me that played this game kind of had a skewed idea of actual environmental challenges as a result. But this game had like so little barrier to anything that it was uninteresting, because anything that you wanted, you could just like, oh, I'll just click and I can have it, or get rid of the bad or whatever.
It's like playing with debug mode on.
It was like you were always cheating. It was like what would I do? I build more houses, build another street. I mean, like, to what end? Because this is going to be more of the same.
For the record, I was looking for footage of Sim Town, and the YouTube algorithm cannot figure out what this game is, and
It was a little obscure. I don't think it was a bestseller for them.
no, it just keeps sending me more Sims stuff. It's like I built it.
I was very excited when SimCity 3000.
Ooh, wait, I may have found
out.
one.
I don't know how many of you people played SimCity 3000. It was kind of a funny in between time.
Nope.
No, I played
Never
a lot
heard of that
2K,
one.
but not 3K.
So 3000, I want to say it came out like 96, 97-ish. The only reason that I make special mention of it is I actually have a coworker who worked on that game, oddly enough, and then transitioned over to the defense industry rather than sticking.
That is a terrifying burger joint on the video.
You don't want to go to Pennywise's Clown Burger?
Oh gosh, yeah, that was the aesthetic. The aesthetic was like super cartoony.
I want a Chinese restaurant that it's in a takeout box.
Okay, that one's cool.
Not sure how it smells, so.
It smells like old, cashew chicken and
Fortune cookies.
There's
SimCity 3000 had a great soundtrack as well. That's
it
one
smells
that I
of
always,
MSG.
one that I always like playing good.
Monosodium glutamate.
Man, now
So
I'm craving
delicious.
Chinese. Now I'm craving Chinese food.
It's your fault. You're the one who brought it up.
No, you had the video.
You're the one who decided you wanted a Chinese restaurant that looked like Chinese
Because
takeout.
I saw the video.
Have self-control.
You're
this
patient
is-
zero here.
This is the early concepts of what SimCity 3000. They thought it was going to be a 3D game. It ended up just being an isometric 2D game, which kind of was a letdown. And
So it did come out in the 90s.
it did.
There was a lot of that in the 90s.
They had tie-ins though with Simcopter and Streets of SimCity. Those are two spin-offs that I never really got
Streets of
into.
SimCity
Yeah.
sounds like an awesome beat-em-up game.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that. Streets of SimCity sounds like the Maxis.
It was more like a Grand Theft Auto, actually. Like you could.
Yeah, I was
you could
gonna
actually
say like it
import
sounds
your
like
city.
Max's version of Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, you could import your city, and then you like drove around, did missions. I think. I never played it.
I am so in.
I think it was pretty janky looking, but that was a thing you could do.
It's like the mode in I don't know if it was Roller Coaster Tycoon, but it was one of that type of game where you could like take on the role of an individual patron and walk around your park and just say like, "Hey, I built this."
Hey, look,
I know you
Simcopter
could do
64.
that in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. when they
Okay,
went
that must be what I'm
3D.
thinking of.
Yeah, but that was already done by the Elite Dangerous developers. Oddly enough, Frontier.
I didn't know there was a Simcopter 64.
Oh, they made it for the 64. That's wild.
I don't think they did this because this video says Simcopter 64 unreleased E3 demo.
Oh, okay.
That
I
looks
mean,
like it was made by.
It was pretty blocky from what I recall. Like
That looks like it was made by the people who made the Superman game.
Superman 64.
And he flew straight through
Like,
the building.
looking at that fog distance of like 100 feet.
Look,
Oh
it's
man,
fine.
they just clipped through the buildings. What?
This
Don't
is
you have
their
to avoid the buildings.
this is their
Boom.
demo version. Cut them some slack.
Come on, no hit boxes.
They hadn't got
I
to
love it.
that in time for E3 97.
That actually is a common complaint in Microsoft and X-Plane flight simulators. Like they don't actually have hitboxes for the buildings.
Wait a minute. I just realized E3 97. That is, man, 97's got to be like the best E3 of all time. Oh my god.
Why?
Were there new systems released that year or announced that year?
Dude, 97? That's the one where the whole Sony PlayStation, where the guy gets up and just says the price and sits down and completely destroys the Sega Saturn in, less in just one number.
I forgot about that.
That's 97. That is
I don't know.
the most
the two-
historical.
The 2006 one always sticks out to me, but that's
That's
E3s.
for-
That's a
different
reason.
I feel like this conversation is a perfect time to move over to Game Dev Tycoon.
Ah, smooth.
It's a masterpiece.
Very nice. I needed an opening too, but
I knew that you've been wanting to talk about it.
So man, Game Dev Tycoon. When I saw that game existed, I'm like, okay, you know what? I have to play this because I've always, it's always been a dream since I've been a little kid to be a game developer. So when they make a Tycoon game, it's like some people are huge into the whole roller coaster. Man, I want to try this Game Dev Tycoon.
Well, now it's not the same company as Roler Coaster Tycoon.
No.
This
It was an indie developer. Their
Yeah.
first game.
Yeah, indie. Yeah.
Green Heart Games.
Uh-huh.
But as I'm playing it, I just kind of love how it goes through the history. Well, speaking of history, that's a Easter egg. That's a DeLorean underneath that.
Yes, it is.
In that garage.
And I kind of love it because the storyline, you actually go back in time and open up a game dev.
Yep. So you actually go through like the whole game history. Like it's very clear. You know, you start out. You can make for PC, and then there's these thinly veiled. Thinly veiled analogs to other things like the what was it, the GC, the Commodore 64, the G64, and let's see, what was it was the Game Station, and what was their name for Nintendo? I can't remember, but like it kind of follows the timeline of the video game industry, and as you play, you just you decide like which company you want to do you want to license with, you want to publish your games on, how do you want to develop your engines, and I mean it's not super complicated because everything's kind of just in this conceptual text and you're on 3D graphics version 1, version 2, but still it's a lot of fun and you can say I want to make a game of I want to make an RPG game, and so if you actually have knowledge of the game industry, it actually can help you because if the Super Nintendo did really well with RPGs, or the PlayStation 1 did really well with RPGs, so to target that because you kind of have that inside knowledge. And kind of the way this game works is you're just kind of an indie developer, and then once you get a breakout hit, you suddenly are flush with money, but then everything becomes more expensive.
Yep.
And it was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this game.
Can I briefly blow your mind?
Well, if you want to get the history about what made this game go viral, is that it? Because it's a good story.
No. Can I just briefly blow your mind? Something I learned very recently and never knew. So Sega. Okay. Did you know that the name Sega just comes from Service Games?
No.
Yeah,
I did not.
It's just an abbreviation of Service Games.
Doesn't that feel like something we should have all known?
For years. I learned that for the first time. I watched a Nintendo documentary, and they were just they said that, and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Wow.
So anyway, back to Game Dev Tycoon.
So, goodness, Game Dev. Well, also you get to name all your games.
Yes, you do. You decide what genre it is and what style of game and you're mixing and matching storytelling genres and game styles and
I don't know. I think it's. You can just leave the game as game number 9 and be really lame, but sometimes I have fun with things like I like to put in references to Gravity Falls, for example. I'm gonna make a horror game about vampires, and I named it The Widowless Vampire.
Nice. My
I made a flight sim called Flights of Fancy. You can just have fun with the names.
The first RPG I made was Fantastic Finality.
Nice. I had one. What did I call it? Last, something like Last Adventure or something like that. But yeah,
Ultimate Legend. Yeah. But if you make a game development game and name it Game Dev Tycoon, you'll actually get an achievement.
Yeah. Also, if you make your game company be Green Heart Games, you'll get an achievement as well.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah. But the reason why this game actually did go viral. This is a great story.
This makes me so happy.
So, because they're an indie developer and they're like, so many people pirate games. They're like, well, you know what?
I was going to ask about this. Wasn't there something cool about pirating? So I'm excited to hear this.
It's the whole they know from Gabe Newell, right, who has the famous statement, "Piracy is a service problem." So they're like, okay, we're going to get ahead of the curve on this one. So instead of waiting for someone else to crack their game, they created their own cracked version and published it themselves on piracy sites. But they made the pirated version uniquely different in that the game was made exponentially harder because once you got to a certain point in the game, your sales would drop because pirates would start pirating your game and it would affect your game sales.
I don't think it was just harder. I think it became impossible.
Well, they kind of designed it to become impossible. But the thing that was absolutely hilarious is they would know exactly who was, playing the pirated game because
someone complaining on
Yes.
Twitter or whatever, like, hey, this game's
on
cheap.
their forum and complain, hey, it's like I'm loving your game, but can you implement like is there a way I can like implement DRM to stop piracy, because piracy keeps making me lose the game, and eventually like just so you know, the paid version of the game doesn't have this problem, and it just went. That hit Twitter, and it just became viral.
They all told on themselves. It was so great.
Because they told on themselves, and it just became just a hilarious meme to point out and like say like, yeah, it's funny how it is trying to make a living and be successful when people keep pirating your games.
So they were like raging. It's like, piracy keeps making me lose money. It's just like, dude.
And so. And that just kind of went viral, and that's what made a lot of people, went to check out this game in the first place. But I think that was a brilliant solution and made people shamed into buying the game after they complained about it.
Some of them. Some are irredeemable.
But I have heard that there actually has been an update that you can, in the full game now, that you can turn on piracy mode and actually have DRM as something you can implement to combat it. Like, they've added that as an update. I don't know if it's something that will always be part of the game or if it's a setting. I haven't actually played it since that update, but I remember they did that.
But it was just so great because like people in the forums knew about it, and they're like, well, you can pay for the game and that'll help.
Yeah, but oh man, it was just one of those brilliant anti-piracy moves, but not fully anti-piracy at the same time. So
no, it was just trolling the pirates.
It was trolling the pirates, and it was brilliant. And honestly, was probably the majority of the success of this game was because of that move.
I don't know, because I just enjoyed it. It was a fun game.
I enjoyed it plenty. I wanted to play it as soon as I saw it was a thing. I didn't even
make it go viral.
Yeah, that's what made it go viral.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think I'm the one who probably told you about this game, because...
No, I saw it online.
You saw it online? Okay.
Yeah. But, no. Now, another game that I actually saw online that not a lot of people I've talked to have really played, that I came across, and it kind of set me off on a simulator kick, was Gas Station Simulator. Have any of y'all played this one?
I forgot about Gas Station
Voices
Simulator.
perked up here.
What's that?
I didn't have to play it because I played it in real life.
Yeah, no. I now remember you playing this. I forgot that this game existed.
It was so
Does someone try to
weirdly
rob the
satisfying.
store?
Because like basically you're in an old rundown gas station that you inherit. It's like on Route 66. So like not a lot of traffic. And you start off with like one pump and a convenience store that you can stock. And gradually you can add on, build things. You get you can upgrade and have a big warehouse that you start filling. You can add on an auto shop, and it just gets more and more involved. And there's just something fun about it. But like I said, it's like old time, sort of the down, like just a little guitar strumming out in the middle of nowhere feeling in the deserts of Route 66.
So can you
So my hometown.
Robden, can you be like, no, prove that gun's real?
I don't.
But,
I don't recommend it.
But you can you end up hiring. You can hire people to clean up spills or run the cashier or
You can
It's
hire
it's a
spice.
full service gas station, so you actually have to be the one pumping the gas and stuff. And each of these different things has a little mini game that you do to make it work, and it was just very well implemented, I thought. And it seems like it's still going. Like they're updating it. I haven't played it in a few years now, but
Wait, it was released in 2021? That's actually pretty new.
yeah. But yeah, it's like
It was definitely a part of that the COVID boom of cozy games.
yes, it was. But like the storyline wise, apparently, like you get the gas station from your uncle, and your uncle's like in with the mob, and so he loans you you owe him money from the very beginning, and if you don't do it, they'll come in and rough up the place and take some of your stuff, and
So it's Reciteer, but in the Wild West.
kind of.
I guess Wild West isn't quite it, just empty desert west.
The Southwest.
Uh-huh. But like you upgrade it, and you paint it, and you decorate it the way you want, and it's just fun. I really, really enjoyed it a lot more than I expected. I saw them playing it on the channel It's a Southern Thing, appropriately, because it's just this sort of redneck thing. But I loved it. So definitely worth checking out. The other one that I played, actually kind of because of this one, and another one is what's it called? It's like auto repair simulator or car or body shop, something. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically you have a body shop.
Oh,
and like you go in and you
where
pull,
you gotta,
you pull the
build-
engines apart and
Yeah.
rebuild the cars and stuff, and it's just very satisfying. That
like
one,
in
and
the
then
same vein as what was it, the
PC building
computer?
simulator,
Yeah, PC Builder Simulator.
which
yeah.
I love.
Oh,
PC building simulator.
Yeah.
I love PC building simulator. For some reason, it's been really straining my graphics card lately, though. So I don't play it as
Ironic.
much. Yeah, it's a little bit ironic,
I
actually. I
imagine.
hadn't even thought about that.
Man, actually, what if PC Building Simulator is like some long con from one of these custom PC building companies to try and get people to,
Alienware's development.
yeah, just
Oh,
sit,
there's DLC where you can get like specific brands of different, components or pre-made boxes and stuff in it, and it's kind of nuts.
Actually reminds me of as you talk
I don't know.
about auto body.
As someone who actually builds his own PCs, I didn't quite see the appeal of it. But
that's why I didn't play Gas Station Simulator.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Like I did this already. I've already done this.
Yeah,
There's not enough robberies.
I beat
Totally
that
fair.
game.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
There's I guess you'd call it a simulator type game that I really enjoyed that came out fairly recently. It's called Hard Space Shipbreaker. And,
I'm sorry, what?
Hard
I don't know.
Space Shipbreaker.
Oh, Hard Space. Okay, I thought you said heart-shaped
so-
shipbreaker. I'm like, is this some sort of like ship-to-ship shipping sim?
Hatoful boyfriend. Or
Yeah.
No, so this is a a space-based simulator. So you're basically doing extravehicular activity. You have like little thrusters, and you have plasma cutters, and like kind of like a gravity gun.
So like you're in
And-
the EVA suit, or
Yeah. So your job is to basically take spacecraft that are being there to be salvaged and demolished, take them apart piece by piece, and separate out like the stuff that you can reuse, that you put in a certain area, stuff that you can recycle, you put in another area, and the stuff that you just incinerate, you put in the incinerator. And so that is basically the gameplay loop. You get all these various
Interesting.
different spacecraft that come through. Some, have fuel tanks and engines in them, and so you got to be real careful not to cut certain areas, or you'll create an explosion and kill yourself, or you'll set off like a nuclear meltdown if you have a reactor that's not being actively cooled, or something
like
like
Among
that.
Us?
Except there's no imposters or anything. It's just you. It's just
That's
you in
exactly what the
shipyard.
imposter wants you to think.
Perhaps you are the imposter.
Guys, I can't talk about that enthusiastically with a 10-year-old in my house. So anyway,
I don't know. Sounds pretty sus to me.
That's
Archway
amazing.
Shipbreaker has a fantastic soundtrack too. It's very bluegrass with the
Nice.
very bluegrass, and it actually does have a storyline associated with it. Spoiler alert: it's not pro corporation, because
It sounded
you are
so
working
pro
for-
corporation though, with the pitch.
You are in massive debt to this corporation that gave you this job of salvaging these spacecraft.
So it's kind of like Satisfactory in that regard.
So like Stardew Valley.
Sure, you're in debt to the raccoon.
Sounds like
kind of
Lethal
thing.
Company to me.
And it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. And people actually do it somewhat competitively. Like you get different ships, and if you break it down with like a certain percentage of salvage under a certain time, those are like the time challenges that you can be a part of if you so choose.
There are a lot of sim games apparently.
There really are.
Yeah. And speaking of
We
not,
haven't even gotten into the space combat flight sims.
yes, we have.
Okay, we touched on Elite Dangerous. We haven't touched
We
on
talked about Star Citizen, I think.
Free
Did anyone hear
Free.
Star Citizen?
Yeah, but we haven't talked about Wing Commander, X-Wing, TIE Fighter,
TIE Fighter, yes.
Star
You've had
Lancer.
plenty of opportunity to bring
one
it
of my
up.
personal favorites, Tacky on the Fringe.
I have never
It starred-
considered TIE Fighter a sim game until you just said that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, oh, it's,
Absolutely.
I
That-
guess
that
I
is
just
the first game that I had a keyboard map for.
Well,
because
no, it's just 'cause-
literally every key has a function.
no, I always thought of it as a Star Wars game. But it just never clicked to me that that's a sim game until you guys said it just now, and I'm like, wait, no,
It's a
that's
Star
it,
Wars
it's
simulator.
a Star Wars sim game, but it just was off in this other corner, and I realized I have to now mentally refile it.
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, Elite Dangerous was inspired by games like, Wing Commander and
absolutely.
TIE Fighter.
I mean, Petrivka, why don't you tell us about Star Wars Squadrons?
Well, I for one, so Star Wars Squadron, I was really glad that they were making finally another actual like simulation-esque. It's more arcadey than I would prefer.
Yeah,
But
I was very
dang.
disappointed with it.
Dang, like it was fun to participate in a modern remake. To be fair, I can get my fix now because there's actually someone doing a total like modern remaster of the original TIE Fighter, which is incredible. It requires a heavily modded copy of X-Wing Alliance, and it's complicated, but it's really nice to have fresh graphics.
Well,
and
what was Star
Kid-
Wars
Kid,
Squadrons?
hold on. No, hold on. I'm gonna interrupt because I want that information. If you can get it to me, Pirate.
I can. I can send you an invite to the Discord that I'm in, even
Because I knew
But,
there were some. I knew there were some X-wing remasters in development, but I haven't heard anything from that project in months. And I know
Yeah.
X-wing Alliance has a remaster.
Yes, and these people are like building on that to do the TIE Fighter remaster.
See, for me, Star Wars Squadrons was almost fun, but it never quite made it.
Yeah, there was more emphasis on PvP, which wasn't really kind of what I was into. They didn't really
Right.
build up campaigns in the way that like X-Wing Alliance and X-Wing and TIE Fighter did, because that was what I remembered the most is following these storylines of people betraying you and like getting your revenge and developing more powerful weaponry and like taking the fight to the rebel scum that they are, because the Empire did nothing wrong for like 3 years as I was playing TIE Fighter.
Well, to be fair, you were thrown off into the far reaches of space during the Battle of Endor, so
In TIE Fighter?
yeah. Did you not play the DLCs or the expansion?
Oh, in the expansions, you're like being chased down trying to deliver the frickin' defenders everywhere.
In the
which is,
first
like,
expansion, yes. In
I
the
don't remember. I don't remember being cast out into dark space. But
in the second expansion, you're chasing down the traitors that you were hiding the defender from.
right,
in
you're
the
going
first
after
expansion.
Zarin, sure.
And at the very last mission says, now that we have defeated the traitor Zarin, we eagerly await the victory from our forces at the Battle of Endor. You are off in some far sector of the galaxy.
Right, you're not in that fight.
Right. While Endor, but like when I say far reach, I just mean like I seem to recall it as being in like one of the outer fringes of the galaxy.
Oh, I thought you were saying like the game ends with you getting like yeeted off on a space.
No.
I thought I would have remembered that.
But it's just funny though, because you spend the whole game like you become the Emperor's hand, like fourth degree and whatnot.
Yeah,
like you're literally
always on the outside of the canon events, though.
Right. You're literally the best pilot that the Empire has to offer 5 times over. Like, there's this massive thing at Endor, but we're so confident we're going to beat it that we think it's more important to send you over here.
That you go and take care of this, like B grade level disaster here.
But they take that because that was the whole backstory of Thrawn, that he just wasn't around. He was off some far reaches of the galaxy doing other things for the Empire at the Battle of Endor.
Everything I learned about Thrawn, I learned from TIE Fighter. I mean, I didn't. Sadly, I never actually read any of the Timothy Zahn novels. So
Thrawn was in the TIE Fighter games?
Oh yeah, he was in the opening cutscene.
I never played him. I didn't know this.
Yeah,
Yes,
go watch the
absolutely.
opening cutscene.
In fact, I just recently watched like all the cutscenes of TIE Fighter. Yeah, it just was a big nostalgia kick. I mean, there's only about 15 minutes of them. They were never very long.
No, they weren't. But it was always a delight when they came up. I beat TIE Fighter. I never beat X-Wing.
The original X-Wing? I thought you were talking about X-Wing Alliance. X-Wing Alliance, I think I had like a bug or something in the Endor mission.
I never beat X-Wing Alliance either because there was this one mission where you start fighting a bunch of the uglies, the spliced TIE fighters, the experimental fighters, and you're supposed to escort something, and
the thing keeps getting blown up.
It just keeps getting destroyed, and I could not save it. I could not save it. And
there are some the escort missions. Oh.
It was the same thing in X-Wing. It was a mission where you have to scan a transport and then disable it. You're in a Y-Wing. And then like 5 kilometers away, a Star Destroyer, once you disable it, a shuttle jumps in to dock with it. And then 5 kilometers away or so, a Star Destroyer starts launching TIE interceptors at you in pairs.
Gosh, and you have to fight them as a Y-Wing?
And you have to fight them as a Y-Wing and keep them...
Without any wingmen or anything?
Without any wingmen.
Oh, man.
Yikes.
Wait, aren't Y-Wings bombers?
Yes. But,
but
early
are
on,
not fighters.
Early on in the game, they're the only aircraft with ion cannons, which you use to disable. Which is why you're in one until the B-Wing comes along, but that wasn't until an expansion.
Better, yeah.
And so, like, I tried to I'd lock on. I'd fly out halfway to meet them. I'd lock on in maximum range. But if they got past me, I had to dump everything into engines, and I still couldn't keep up because they just
slow because the interceptors are so stinking fast. Interceptors are way faster than the dang Y-Wing, which only had a speed of like 70, I think, or something.
It was 80, I think.
Or 80, but the interceptors are 111.
111. The only thing faster was the Y-Wing, at least until you got to the Defender and the missile boats. But
the Defender, the Advanced too was also.
And the Advanced was. I always preferred the Advanced to the Defender. I don't know. I just thought it was a cool ship.
I thought the Defender always felt like a stupid win button. It was like, oh hey, look at me! I have shields, I have ion cannons, I have 4 laser cannons. So like,
it's like,
man, you got everything.
Like a B-Wing on steroids.
Well, then you get the missile boat, but you know.
But the thing is, the missile boat didn't perform as well as the Defender, but it had that tractor beam so that you could use it to lock down the Defender.
Beam. It had a crap load of missiles.
Crap load of missiles. So the whole idea was
slam drive. It also had the slam drive.
True. I don't know if I used the slam drive all that.
Oh, the slam drive is almost required at times. Like,
I just remember you had to lock onto the Defenders, lock them down with the tractor beam, and then just pump missiles into them because you only had one laser cannon.
Right. Yeah, it was designed. You fought with the missiles. You didn't. The laser cannon was like, if you're fighting with a laser, you're doing it wrong.
Anyway, I interrupted you. You were
I think we nerded out.
the slam drive. I'm not even sure I knew what that did. Did it just like boost your ship systems for a time?
Oh no, it drained your laser cannon for a massive amount of speed.
Ah.
But not maneuverability, so it was just straight line speed. Like if you had to make a hard turn, you weren't doing it when you had the slam drive active.
Right. I will always be disappointed that particularly two ships in particular, the assault gunboats and the Z-95 headhunters, had never showed up in a movie, and I feel like it's particularly the Z-90.
The gunboat's such a beautiful craft. I love how it looks.
It's just a shuttle with extra wings, but no, it is cool. It is cool.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it, and it has shields, and you don't get like killed with one shot like you do when you're a freaking TIE fighter.
Well, TIE fighter had one thing that X-wing did not. It had the indicator that told you, oh hey, there's an enemy trying to get a lock on you and shoot you down. X-wing didn't have that, so you had to keep your eye on that indicator, because if that indicator ever lit up, you're like, okay, hard turn, gotta get.
Seems like a key feature.
I never played the original X-wing. I played TIE Fighter and X-wing Alliance.
Okay,
X-wing was. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
X-wing was just TIE fighter, just a little less tech, and you were on the rebel side. So, although the Death Star battle in X-wing was probably a technical marvel at the time.
I can't say so.
Did it have a trench run and everything?
Yeah, you had a trench run, but the way they mixed it up is like the Endor battle in Alliance. They had a bunch of obstacles in your way that you would have to maneuver around and whatnot.
Yeah.
But also, once you entered the trench, your speed got boosted to like 300%, so you're moving insanely fast as well.
Oh, I just remembered what would lock me out of the X-wing Alliance. In the Endor battle, you go into the Death Star and like, I wouldn't have anything that could blow up the freaking reactor, and Wedge Antilles wasn't doing his freaking job. And so
Dang it, Wedge.
Because in the movie, Wedge Antilles blows it up. Why isn't my job?
No. Wedge went for the power regulator on the North Tower.
Okay, he wasn't doing that either.
I just want to interrupt on a complete non sequitur. I just beat the level I was working on this whole time in Power Wash Simulator. It was a forest cottage, and I found out that the people who hired me were named H and G Hexenjäger, which I think is a freaking amazing name because it's Hansel and Gretel.
Nice.
And Hexenjäger is an incredible name. Anyway,
that is a pretty strong name.
Right? It literally means witch hunter.
Dang.
Hansel and Gretel, witch hunters. So that's what they did when they grew up.
Indeed. Sorry to interrupt.
So,
we've been going on this for a while.
Yeah, there's a simulator game that I found when I was in high school that I don't know, since I was kind of hanging around with the Mud crowd, playing Muds online, and kind of they were more in the programming side of life. There was a game in the UK that was made by an indie developer called Uplink. Have any of you heard of Uplink?
I've played several hours of Uplink.
I
haven't gotten good at it by any means, but I enjoyed it. I got to a point where I was like, okay, this is a little bit more than I want.
So when I got Uplink, I had to mail order it from the UK, and it was shipped, and so I got a disc. It was in a DVD case, and the what it had for DRM, it had a card that had a grid on it, like kind of like a spreadsheet style grid, and when I installed it, I had to say what was on row 5, column 8. That was how what the install key was. It was this card that came with the original disc. But I mean, now I just play it on Steam. But in this game of Uplink, you play as a hacker in the futuristic year of 2010, and the kind of the gameplay loop is you would pick up missions, and the missions would say like, oh, I want you to hack into this server and grab this file, send it to me, or destroy this file and tell me when you're complete and we'll send you money. And so you get progressively more difficult hacks that you need to do. And you'd buy new hardware so you'd have like your password crackers run faster. But I don't know, I really enjoyed this game in high school. And heck, I just replayed through it just in this last month because I'm like, you know what? It's been a while since I played Uplink. I want to play Uplink again. And it's just a lot of fun.
I actually pulled it out probably a month or two ago because I wanted to play it again because it had been forever. And for some reason, like the video settings on it just do not like my computer now. And it's just like, so I couldn't play it properly. And I was really frustrated. I don't know exactly how to fix it, but.
Oh, when I tried to play it, I had video problems, but I was able to solve it.
We'll talk after.
Yeah, we'll talk after. Though the problem is since this was made a long time ago, even if you fix the resolution, it doesn't scale like the font, so the game screen gets a little hard to see.
That was the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember the way I have it set up now, but yeah. I think there are some mods that can better fix that. Like, for example, I can tell this guy's using a graphical mod that's on the video right now.
But yeah, like it's available on Steam, so.
Yeah. And it's a great little game. I mean, that is something I do notice about a lot of these like really cool, interesting sim games is they're just made by some small independent developer that had an idea that just hadn't been done before.
Yeah.
And this is one of them.
Yeah.
And,
this one I definitely remember you telling me about years ago.
And I still love this game. And eventually it does kind of get to this big plot where, the top hacker, in the news feed, he shows up dead and an email randomly, like he has an email that's sent on like a dead man's switch that goes to you and it's like, oh, beware this company, and then that company contacts you and another company contacts you, and like there's some internet virus. Like there's this whole plot line where you could choose to side with one of these two companies, and that's kind of the actual end of the story. And and the game actually can end depending on which side you pick. It'll actually, one side completely ends the game, the other side you could kind of keep going, but once you have enough money that you've bought everything, there's not anything else to do. Or if you it's hard to turn down the temptation of it, but you get missions where you need to hack into bank accounts. So you can like hack into a bank account, and one of the things you can do is you can actually transfer money. And like sometimes some of the missions are, oh, I want this person to make a donation to this bank account, so you hack into his bank account, you send it to another one. But every now and then you log in and you find a bank account that's just got like millions of credits in it, and it's like, should I make a dummy account to transfer that into to potentially use? And actually, yeah, that is something you can do in the game, is you actually can hack and rob a bank. And though if you do that, that's actually normally there's like a time frame that you need to delete your logs and get your tracks, or else you'll get caught. But if you do a bank transfer, it'll be caught like super fast. So like, and if you get caught, it'll you lose your save file basically.
Right. I
suppose you actually can install like a motion sensor and a self-destruct bomb in your computer. So you can.
The UI of this game is really interesting because basically what you're doing is you're remoting into a computer that's been issued to you by this company, and you can upgrade it based on as you gain credits and everything. But the interface for the whole game is like you're sitting there and remoting into a different computer. It's actually really satisfying the way it works.
Yeah, and you bounce your calls around, so it's harder to be traced, and you always want to bounce through a computer that's easy for you to hack into later to delete your logs.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, it's a very satisfying game. It was a very, very unique concept. There has been some other games that have kind of been inspired by it. Like there's Hacker Evolution and Hack Me. I've noticed on Steam, but I feel like nothing kind of beats this original implementation. It's just
I agree. I've tried a couple others because I enjoyed it. Enjoyed this one, and none of the others have really quite matched as the fun experience of this one.
because like I do feel like some of the other ones, like Hacker Evolution, they wanted you to get into the command line more, which is more realistic. But frankly, a game like this, if you make it too realistic, it's actually not really that fun of a game.
Well, and that's sort of the problem of the sim genre overall is
Yeah,
you want
gotta
some
balance it.
you want some level of realism, but you don't want too much because then it's no longer fun.
The goal isn't to make it feel like, to feel realistic. The goal is to make the player feel like they are X.
Yeah, though there are missions that do require you to get into a command line, and I feel like tutorial-wise they should have done a better job of saying what you should do in the terminal. I mean, really all you do is you go into like the main folders and delete everything, because it's usually when you're trying to just destroy the computer.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of one thing that I think they kind of did weak, where you have to look online like, oh, how do I complete this mission? Because they kind of neglected the tutorial for that one. But
Oh, I thought that was for realism, because like a lot of times when you work on
Well,
stuff, how do I
that's
do
true.
this? Got to look it up online.
well, fair enough. Well, and what was really interesting, the original disc came with some goodies on the disc, like that isn't in the Steam version. Like I remember on it there was like a series of text files called a hacker's diary that had this whole little story that this one supposed hacker had written, that about his time learning to be a hacker. It was kind of interesting little pack in goodie. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's a really fun game. It does suffer from its graphic resolution changing doesn't scale very well, but it's well worth a playthrough.
Well, we've been going for almost 2 hours, so let's get this wrapped up. Sim games are fun and people should play them. Petrivka, do you want to promote anything?
No, just happy to be here.
All right, Lunasar.
I'll promote Lizzie's stream, Lizzie Petrichor at Twitch.
I love how you're never going to fall for that again.
And you didn't even say the URL right, but that's okay. You tried.
Well, I didn't say the whole URL. Just said it was on Twitch.
Well, no, he's got to set you up for that, Lizzie.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and promote then. My stream is twitch.tv/Lizzie Petrichor. I'm a Pokemon Shiny Hunter, if that's something you're interested in watching.
I'm disappointed you didn't get any shinies while we were doing this.
I actually did. Sorry I didn't
What?
shout it out, but I did get a shiny Badoo. You guys were deep in conversation. And
I
there was,
told you
multiple
to
people
interrupt
talking.
if it happens.
I'm sorry. It wasn't as exciting as my previous two before stream started, before the podcast started.
I don't care if it's a frickin' shiny Pidgey. You interrupt.
I'm so disappointed in you.
One of these streams you need to get a shiny oh gosh, the buffalo.
You're doing great.
Oh man.
You mean
Tauros.
Tauros?
Thank you.
I got that in a previous podcast before, but that was before I knew I should shout it out. And I did nickname it Splice in his honor.
That is insulting to me, and I am offended.
And I love it.
I'm no longer disappointed in you, Lizzie.
I try.
Breakfast, what do you got?
I'm going to toss another game. If you're just looking for absolutely bonkers sim style games, and when I say sim styles, it's kind of like, there's a game out there called Space Station 13. If you want to just watch some absolutely wacky antics you can get up to with any kind of a game, go watch some playthroughs of this game. Massively multiplayer simulation on a space where you can be given roles anywhere from being the captain of the ship to the lowest janitor, but it's all multiplayer. Every character is a playable character. And you could just do some absolutely crazy stuff. The Black Pants Legion text has a number of playthroughs that are just amusing to no end.
Never heard of that. What's it on?
All I know is I'm looking up pictures and I just see a bunch of screenshots of everyone dead and dismembered alien style.
Wait. Say that again, Lee?
I'm seeing screenshots of just a bunch of dead people as they've been attacked by an alien.
Well, that isn't you can become a changeling and then you have to start sabotaging everything and not get caught. Those are all things that can happen.
Looney, did you just say on stream that you see dead people?
I mean,
Technically, he did.
But it's for the PC. I think
Space Station 13 screenshots.
Imposter.
It's for the PC. It's a very the graphics are as basic as they come. They're pixelated. There's no real animations.
It looks a lot like FTL.
It says it released in 2003, which I'm
yeah,
oh my god.
It's a very old game. In fact, I think they're developing Space Station 14, but it's very akin to Dwarf. Losing is half the fun. But instead of managing a community, you're just a single member of it.
That is interesting.
But
Baggins. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm done.
Sorry.
No. I'm done. Go on.
Oh, okay. Baggins.
I'll just do Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies again. If you like Brandon Sanderson, definitely check us out. We talk about his Cosmere books. We will go in depth on specific characters or scenes. We'll discuss wider books as a whole. Our next episode, we're going to be talking about Oathbringer as we do our reread, moving towards the release of the 5th Stormlight book this December. So definitely check that out. Again, that's the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. You can get it on YouTube or any podcast service.
The new book is too many words.
No such thing.
491,000.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Darn straight. All right. And then you can find me twitch.tv/splicestream, YouTube, Kick, all that good stuff. Trivial Video Gaming. I will have the first video up hopefully soon. It's going to be a video of the top 10 doors in games. And then I will also have a video game 20 questions that I did with Lizzie. So I'm looking forward to getting both those videos out. Should be a good start to the channel. So look up Trivial Video Gaming. I don't know if it's even up yet since I don't have any videos, but look for it. It'll be great. But yeah, that's going to be I'm waiting for, I bet it exists, YouTube Video Simulator.
I'm not sure if this is popular in most sims,